Hi, and welcome to Basic Video Production Skills. This tutorial is produced for my classmates at the Empire State College Master of Arts in Learning and Emerging Technologies, or MALET program. If you have no video production skills at all, this is the course for you. If you have some skills but feel you're a little rusty, then this course is for you too. Let's get started. First, let's talk about preparing for production. You need to first visualize your production. Whether you call it a script or an outline, your plan should be on paper first. What gets you there is answering the 5 W's. If this is an interview, write out the questions beforehand. You can certainly ask additional questions if you think of them on the spot, but don't totally rely on this method. It often fails to bring back all the footage you need or could have had with some preparation. During production, a happy, calm set is the best set. Running around frantically does not help anyone. Everyone should be comfortable, even those helping out on the crew. Comfortable means plenty of food and drink for everyone, plenty of places to sit, and good communication. Be open to suggestions, which usually come from a calm and comfortable cast and crew. Check if your subject has plenty of water for that sudden cotton mouth. Remember, the interviewee needs to be happy with the keeper take as well. Let's talk about composing an image properly, so it doesn't become distracting to the viewers. In this example, the headroom framing is correct. You see the top of the head is just below touching the top, but it's not. Here, the headroom is incorrect because there's too much headroom, meaning too much space from the top of the head to the top of the frame. This is an example of lead room. Depending which way your subject is looking off camera at the interviewer, we allow a little lead room, or area where the subject can talk into, if you will. Your subject should be talking into the bulk of the composed frame and never talking into the close side of the frame. That would look awkward. For straight interviews, lead room is important. The rule of thirds is a compositional rule of thumb in visual arts such as painting, photography, and design. The rule states that an image should be imagined as divided into 9 equal parts by 2 equally spaced horizontal lines and 2 equally spaced vertical lines, and that important compositional elements should be placed along these lines or their intersections. Here is an example of the rule of thirds. The woman's eyes, the important compositional element, are placed along the line for the top third. Here, the goat's body is the important element, so it is positioned at the intersection of the last third to the left with the top third of the frame. Here is our lead room example showing that we had followed the rule of thirds. This is an example of a wide shot. Most of the visible part of the subject is in the frame, and we see some of the background. In this case, the credenza behind her with the 2 lamps and the art hanging on the wall between them. The advantage is that we are able to see the subject in their surroundings, giving us a reference to the location and establishing a relationship of the subject to their surroundings. The disadvantage is that we cannot see the woman's face too well since she is further away in the distance. If that is important to the shot, then this framing wouldn't work. A wide shot is generally used to establish the subject to their environment. Then closer up angles can be used. This is a medium shot. It's usually head and shoulders. It brings us closer to the subject. Some of the background is out of range. Most interview segments are primarily this framing. This is a close-up. Notice that some of the forehead is cut off at this point, but the entire contour of the chin is displayed. This is the correct framing for a traditional close-up. The disadvantage is if we want to hide or mask exactly what the subject says, or facial expressions that are conveyed, and if the viewer is intentionally being denied this knowledge, a close-up would not be the appropriate shot. A wide or long shot would be more appropriate for that type of screen effect. This is an example of incorrect framing of a close-up. The chin should never be cut off. It cuts off the contour of the face and partially hides what the person looks like. Again, the correct framing for a close-up. Let's discuss the different ways we can move the camera. Let's assume your camera's on a tripod. When you move your camera side to side, this is what is referred to as panning. As an example, the camera pans to follow someone walking by across the street. As you're filming, the camera is panning. The camera is still on a tripod. When you point the camera up or down, this is called tilting. When you move your camera towards or away from the subject or scene, this is tracking. Generally, there are two ways to achieve this. One is to place the camera on a dolly and wheel the dolly closer or away from the scene. The other way is generally to hand-hold the camera and physically move closer or away from the subject. 99.99% of the time, you should shoot with your camera on a tripod. A steady shot is the best way to not distract the viewer from the subjects in your shots. There are times when you can, and even should, handhold the camera or put it on a device to move it fluidly through the scene if the shot calls for it, but generally, a tripod is your best bet. We'll talk about some tripod limitations and camera leveling tips. Some small tripods do not go up that high. Eye level is the usual top height of a tripod. So to get extra height, place the tripod on a table to get the extra height if you need it. The leveling rule that I've used all my life is keep the verticals vertical rule. You can see here that if we use the horizontal lines of the ceiling lines in the frame to level the shot, it doesn't work. The shot still looks crooked. If we use the horizontal floor line, that doesn't look level either. Using vertical lines found in the frame will always level the shot. You can use doorways, windows, flagpoles, any number of items found in our natural surroundings that can give us a vertical reference. Let's talk about some simple, basic audio considerations when you're videotaping. You should look for no background noise if possible. The less the amount, the better. Listen for distracting sounds like air conditioning units, office chatter, street sounds, or in general, busy environments where you really can't hear what the person is saying. When selecting your background, and it could be as simple as turning around in place, you're looking for clean, simple, undistracting backgrounds for your subjects. Don't forget to look for those exit signs, usually way in the back of the shot. They are usually bright red or neon, yet we don't notice them when we're shooting, but then when we review the shot later, it blares out at us like New Year's lights. Here's an example of a very busy background and probably pretty loud too. Here is a much better background to use and probably much quieter from the looks of it. Some lighting considerations. Available light is just that, what's available to you. It could be the sun, or daylight from a window, or overhead lights. If you have your own professional video lights, then you'll have much more control. But if you only have what's available, then keep an eye out for where the light is coming from. Be aware of too much backlight, which will make the shot dark. Here's an example where the light is directly overhead and the girl's face is mostly in shadow. By moving her a few feet backwards, the light is now hitting her face, and we can follow what she is saying better. So let's recap. We spoke about composition, close-ups, medium shots, wide shots, lead room, and the rule of thirds, and when to use each. We covered camera movements such as panning, tilting, and tracking. We covered some tripod tips. We spoke about keeping the verticals vertical. We discussed some audio considerations to keep in mind when you're shooting, and we covered one simple, easy-to-remember lighting tip. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at alritondo@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.